Hi, welcome to my presentation today. Here's my audience. One on FaceTime, one in real time. Today I'll be talking about fake news and how misinformation has become a global issue and we are entering very dark times. And I want to talk about how, I want to persuade the audience and ultimately by the end on how we can interact productively with fake news in order to, especially with people that we care about that are in support of it. I mean, that are brainwashed by it. So, my impression of fake news, before writing this presentation, was that I should definitely just disregard it entirely. And that's what a lot of people think, that in order to sort of eradicate fake news, we need to get out of the habit of consuming it in general and not talking about it with people, especially people we know to subscribe to it. Engaging with them only agitates the relationship in general. So I think that it's important to recognize 3 different types of fake news. One is disinformation, which is information that is deliberately mechanized to give people the wrong idea about something, such as the Russians creating it during the KGB and the Cold War to weaponize it into some state of chaos in the United States and abroad. Then there's misinformation, which is the spread of false news, but not with the intent of any sort of malintent. So it's basically just when people have these stories that they feel like need to be spread and to tell the truth about, the misconceptions about something, or something that the press is trying to cover up or what have you, but in the end it is not much different from any other form of fake news. Then there's the last form, which is why I have Donald Trump up here, because he's really proliferated the idea that anything that isn't in his favor he calls the fake news media, and that is basically just blaming any news outlet of proliferating fake news because it's not favorable to his image. A good example of disinformation is during the Cold War in the 80s, in the early 80s, at the start of the AIDS crisis in the United States, there was a report from a journal in Southern Africa that was created by Russian intelligence that stated that AIDS was created by the American government in a lab. And that was really problematic because it spread so fast outside of the United States, and once it got into the eyes of real scientists in the United States, they had a hard time falsifying it because it was already making its way across the world. Misinformation, a great example is Holocaust deniers, or I mean, while a lot of that is deliberately malicious, like some people genuinely don't believe that the Holocaust happened as it is depicted, or like anti-vax information, a lot of that is not completely innocent, but it's not trying to spread a false story of sorts. So then there's the fake news media, which is the juiciest, and it's like it's triggering for a lot of people. But Donald Trump will just say, "Yo, this is fake, and I hate CNN, and I hate Fox News, and I hate anyone that doesn't adhere to patting me on the back." So that's where it gets muddy, because like all three of these ideas sort of converge into this like identity that is fake news, and they're very different, but they are put under the same name in a lot of cases. So making the distinction is very important in figuring this out. Alex Jones is a scummy man. He for a long time has been putting out fake news, and a lot of what he does is misinformation, to my belief. And he, like, one big example is he said that the school shooting in Florida was totally staged. And he says that they're not, that they're like, the kids involved are actors, and they're only trying to push like gun reform. And it's very hard to talk about without cursing, because it's just so nasty and horrible that he would have these ideas. And yeah, so he's kind of very, very prominent news figure on a lot of right-wing media. And Donald Trump supports him because he's very loyal to Donald Trump. But the typical response to these sort of stories are, like, if you could read the headline, it says, Alex Jones confronted with struggles to defend lies, calling Sandy Hook a hoax and a new deposition tank. And the title is a form of psychosis. So, like, a lot of people just kind of throw mental illness into the mix and just say, like, he is crazy and you shouldn't hear a word he's talking about. But the problem with that is that it further alienates people that get behind his ideas. And it's like, if you call someone crazy, then it's not a good recipe for reform. And so there was this article it was an advertisement by the Lincoln Project, was campaigns, the Republicans that campaign against Trump's re-election. And they had this video on how to interact with loved ones that subscribe to fake news. And basically, a really important idea is that you're never going to be able to reach a person if you call them wrong, or if you like call them out and say, like, and like, I personally have a grandmother who has some really twisted ideas about history. Mm-hmm. And so, like, it's really hard for me to engage with her in any form of relationship, because that just like takes precedence in my mind before anything else. So one way this video was saying that it's really important to interact with people that you love, that you're struggling with because of fake news, is to tell them, or to engage with them, talk about it, and like express genuine interest. Is it 10 minutes?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so that when you confront them about it, you're asking them questions, pointed questions, but not denouncing what they believe. And so that you can help them reconcile the fact that a lot of what they believe, in addition to like everything else in the cultural sphere, is very contradictory and doesn't add up. And so the very sad part about these relationships is that it's very unlikely that you'll ever be able to experience the satisfaction of changing someone's mind, because they will not generally say like, oh my god, okay, I was totally wrong. There's this like level of they have to go home and think about it, and then when they've changed their mind, they're not likely to admit that they did so for shame, which is a shame. But yeah, thank you for listening, and I hope that I've impressed upon you action to go and engage and love people that you miss for fake news on sources and all.